Right then, I'm back then. Here we go, take two, and I think I called it something like Flat Earth, my foot and a sausage on a stick, and I'll try not to swear this time. You know, try not to swear. Might take down my channel or something. Want to be nice to the gullible masses. So, is the Earth flat, or is it round, or is it shaped like a ruddy sausage? Well, what available evidence do we have? And even if it is round, flat, or shaped like a ruddy sausage, what difference does it make to our freedom, which is going down the spout or up the spout, as far as I'm concerned, on a blob Earth, by the day? And we have very real situations to focus on. And they're putting the spanner in the works every time, aren't they? They're really, rubbing our faces with this flat Earth load of ruddy cobblers. And you can see them coming out of the woodwork. People like Santos Bonacci, this twerp, that's the polite version, right? Probably a paid shill, or maybe he's just completely brainwashed. Both scenarios are likely. This is the guy who, unfortunately, I was stupid enough to end up doing a couple of broadcasts with before. Didn't know, actually, I was going to be broadcasting with him on a program called At This Moment with Angela Black. He turns up late for the program, interrupts what I was talking about. This was before he started doing the flat Earth thing, as far as I know. I originally thought it might be interesting to talk to the guy because he was talking about astrotheology, and he had an interest in flamenco guitar, which has been basically, flamenco has been my life, basically, although I haven't really been very active in recent years, as I went over to doing internet radio and doing some other things. And this little creep has started doing this flat Earth thing, isn't he? And yeah, I say it like that. I'm pointing the finger at this creep called Santos Bonacci, and I'm almost ashamed to have had anything to do with this guy, because in fact my intuition was telling me there's something wrong with that guy from the very first day I met him. But it's not just him. It's all of these creeps doing this. I mean, you've got creeps like that exposing a lot of good truths, and then what does it make the movement, if the truth really is a movement at all? It makes it look like a bunch of old sausage, doesn't it? Because now we're all nutters. Now we're all nutters, and people are going to think, well, people without three and a half brain cells or more in use are going to think that we're all flipping flat earthers or something now. Well, they can think what I like. I am not a flat earther, but I will continue to attempt to expose truths about how our freedoms are disappearing by the day, and how we are enslaved, and always have been, in one form or another, enslaved to a system, and how we were sold like chunks of, like slabs of meat to the system via the birth certificate. I never gave my consent for that. I don't want to be owned by some corporation that thinks they own me. stocks and shares on the stock exchange, bought and sold like a chunk of or a slab of meat. That's the way I see it. Where we're forced into school. Personally, I had the living daylights beaten out of me, very serious beatings. I was black and blue all over the back of my back, my arse. Was beaten to a pulp. Already at the age of 6.5, 7, they were doing that to me because I stared out the window. I wasn't interested really much in their indoctrination already at that age. I didn't feel very at home. Being brainwashed in your so-called schooling system, which, by the way, doesn't tell you anything about Freemasonry, does it? You're going to have to find that out for yourself. And you think you're going to get the truth from a Freemason about that, you're going to have to be very careful, because they've already sworn their blood oaths of secrecy, very serious blood oaths of secrecy. And that's how the world is controlled, by the filters in the rungs of the ladder, the hierarchy of the secretive societies, where they allow what they want up at the top of the pyramid. They allow what they want at the top of the pyramid up through the hierarchy. Or they test you in those organizations to see if you're gonna dance to their tune. But then it seems that the world is so easy to manipulate and indoctrinate as you react to the ringing bell of the Pavlovian ping, the conditioning, the Pavlovian conditioning, the conditioned response when you hear that little ping, and the school bell rings, you run out to the playground and it rings again, and the conditioned response prompts you to react and run back into the classroom again for your next round of brainwashing. And that's the box. That is one part of the box that they put you in. The black cube of Saturn, hint, hint, hexagon, hexagram. Symbolism. Saturn, Satan. That's a theme. So now I go onto the net. It doesn't seem to matter where I go, if it's on YouTube or Facebook or this, that, and the other. Every day, it comes up in the feed. Flat Earth. The supposed truth about the world being flat. Whereas those perpetrators of the shills perpetrating this rubbish don't have working models. The model of the flat Earth doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever. People like this swine, Santos Bonacci, are perpetrating this swindle, and people fall for it. In fact, it's great to question things, but when you can't go on the net and get away from the flat Earth scenario, I'm questioning that with good reason, because the claims that Mr. Bonacci makes and others do not hold ground. So, Mr. Bonacci, I doubt if you can show us a picture of the pole star from your neck of the woods. in Australia. So because the world is not flat at all, is it? And as for a lot of other details, I'm pointing your camera at the pole star. He uses this argument that it would be impossible on a round Earth. Well, yeah, I've looked at all of the arguments that I've heard so far. None of them hold ground. This Lake Michigan stuff it obviously doesn't hold ground at all. I've been at sea. I watched the sunset, the sunrise. While I'm, for example, simultaneously talking to a person at another point on the blob Earth, who will see the sun rising before I do, because the world isn't flat at all. It's amazing that we even have to contend with this. What hope is there for humanity and freedom and true freedom if we're talking about the flat Earth every day? Then what hope is there for actually talking about anything objectively at all? Because the sun does rise in the morning, doesn't it, in the east? But if you're further east, you're going to see the sun before me. You know, I live in Norway, in something they insist on calling Europe, and they insist on calling it Norway, whatever. If you're a bit further east than me, you're going to see the sun before me, because the Earth is round. It's that simple. And as for Mr. Bonacci, Mr. Santos Bonacci, the swine, yeah, is that rude or what? He can't show me a photograph, can he? Or maybe he can, of the pole star from Australia. But he keeps going on about the pole star. But his argument there, if you analyze it, it's talking about long exposures of the pole star and so on and so forth. If you actually do a proper analysis of this, you'll see that his argument doesn't hold ground. And the very same pole star that he's talking about isn't even visible for him from the south of Australia or wherever it is. I don't know where in Australia he is, but somewhere in Australia, southern hemisphere of this planet. As far as I know, and maybe somebody can prove me wrong, you cannot see the pole star from Australia. Can you? Or can you? Am I wrong? So, Santos Bonacci, show me a photograph of the pole star from Australia. Good luck to you, as your arguments do not hold ground, which is why he turns, I imagine, maybe why he turns his comment section off on Mr. Astrotheology. He turns his comment section off. So there's you know, he really just comes out, and anyone who believes in a round Earth, you know, a blob, according to him, are buffoons. Whereas he himself has believed in, you know, he even admits that he's believed in a blob Earth, a round Earth, for many, many years. I think he's about 50 plus years old, 52 years old or something, this guy. Don't know what they did to him in the Jehovah's Witnesses or something. I think he was a Jehovah's Witness for more than 30 years. Maybe they did something to his nut. So, or he's a very well paid shill, whatever. Maybe he actually believes it himself. That, you know, maybe he's come to that conclusion, that he genuinely believes that the Earth is flat. Even if it is, what difference does it make? We have a scenario on this Earth today, call it NWO, not very much new about it. It's a very old plan unfolding before us, before our very eyes, where we are becoming more enslaved by the second, by the moment. And, you know, we need to address these issues. We don't need to throw a spanner in the works with some flat Earth rubbish, do we? To illustrate the point. And in fact, who is he serving by perpetrating this rubbish? I'm telling you that there is no way in my mind that I can make your flat Earth models work. You need to be maybe completely gullible, and not be able to think for yourself and observe for yourself to be able to fall for this. So, I mean, you watch the sun set, you see the sun sink down over the horizon. It doesn't go, as a, you know, this flat Earth scenario, they're supposed to have a sun going around like this on a flat Earth. It's not the way it works, friends. Because if I was, I don't know, you know, I imagine you're sitting at some point on this blob Earth, certainly isn't where I'm sitting, and we will see the sun rising at different times, but the sun doesn't go like this big and small like that because it's doing a circling thing around the flat Earth, does it? And it's really funny actually, because I've never had that many dislikes for my broadcast as when I did one a moment ago, and I lost my cool because I'm thinking about this. It's really getting on my nerves actually, because every time I go on the net, I have to contend with this flat Earth coming up in the feeds, left, right, and center. And I'm thinking, what chance is there for humanity when we have to contend with this every single day, go on the net and have to listen to this flat Earth rubbish? What chance is there for truth and freedom? I'll ask you that question. Maybe you will be able to ask yourself that question, you know, because just applying the question mark to things reduces the chances of gullibility, doesn't it? You know, in a world of deception, take nothing at face value, including the flat Earth. Now, they got paid shills. They've even got chatbots to press the unlike button, you know, and turn up. They've even got active chatbots. You know, it's artificial intelligence. Don't you think they'll also be using that for the little flat Earth psyop? You see these faceless flat earthers. But back to yeah, turning up in the chats and stuff and in the comment sections. What chance do we have for freedom from this global tyranny? If you can't see that by now, if there is a God, may it help us. I ain't waiting, which is why I began doing internet radio. This Bonacci fellow turns off his comment section. He obviously is afraid of having to defend his flat Earth against anybody coming along challenging this ridiculous, completely nonsensical flat Earth model with anything believable, actually observable phenomena, as in the pole star being visible and certain constellations being visible in the northern hemisphere, which are not visible from the southern hemisphere, which is not possible in my mind on a flat Earth model. It's that simple. It's just that simple. As for the curvature, I've seen the curvature myself. I've been at sea, I've been fishing many times, and you know, I'll give you one example of the time I went fishing with my grandfather, where this is out on the coast of Trondheim, and it's Hitra, Freyja. These are two islands, and then you have Haltenbanken, which is a row of small islands which goes out, and then out there you've got these oil platforms. Now, we had to go pretty far out before these oil platforms were visible, and with binoculars you could actually see half of the oil platform sticking out from the sea. You had to get closer for the base, or where the oil platform is actually in contact with the sea level. To be able to see that, you had to be closer, and the closer you got, the more of the oil platform you could see. And it's amazing that in a world of deception, and lies take nothing at face value, but people just seem to buy into it. Or maybe you're a paid shill too. You want to believe the earth is flat, do you? Everything seems to be round. You look up in the sky, we've got round planets, got planets, blobs in space. Blobs in space, mate. So there you go. Sit there. You can press the dislike button, the clap button, whatever freaking button. It's not going to make a rat's ass bit of difference to me what button you press. I don't really care. What I care about is revealing the truths about, for example, Agenda 21, what we know as Agenda 2030 today, this global control grid, which needs to be exposed again and again and again, because people still don't get it. They're still running out there with their voting slips, as even when the whole scam has been exposed time and time again, people still, as they're trained and domesticated throughout life with the indoctrinations and all the forced indoctrinations and all the rest of it, the obligatory mandatory brainwash, they're still running out there with their voting slips. They're thinking they're going to make a difference, where in actual fact it makes really no difference at all who you vote for, because it's just a front. The political parties are just fronts, and the real agenda is running in the background, which they didn't mention to you when you ran out to vote for your scripted politician. Probably didn't. Most of them don't even write their own speeches. And you can even find examples of politicians at different ends of the globe, one in Canada, one in Australia, a famous one, actually using the same speech almost exactly word for word. So they didn't write it themselves, you see. The secretive societies, Freemasonry and all these different groups are very real. Flat or not, we actually have a planet which is controlled by the secretive networks, as in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, the York Rite of Freemasonry, the Knights of Malta, the Knights of Columbus, the Jesuits, the this, the that, the other. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. And these organizations are, if you can't see how influential they are in, well, the way the world is controlled by now, please do your efforts if you want to find out how the system really works. You might want to look in what they never told you about at school, because at school they won't tell you about Freemasonry. As far as I know, maybe they do today, but they certainly never did when I went to school. In fact, I don't know anybody who has ever learned anything about Freemasonry at school. The people who were already in the first rituals, you know, the rituals of Hiram Abiff and all of this, and other similar rituals, you're actually swearing blood oaths of secrecy. This isn't a theory. It's nothing theoretical about it. In fact, Masons themselves will actually admit to that. I've been speaking to a Mason who recently passed away. He described the ritual they often describe here in Norway about swearing blood oaths of secrecy while you have a sword held literally to your heart. These are very serious blood oaths of secrecy. That's how they keep the lid on things. So they don't tell you about this when you run out with your little voting slip. But now apparently well, I've never voted in my life. I never will. Because I saw through the scam a long, long time ago. I did more research later on in life as well. And flabbergasting to see, and very disappointing to see how easily, generally speaking, the masses are led, indoctrinated, trained, domesticated, into the system, sold into the system via our birth certificates, and we are basically enslaved in a system that doesn't have our best intentions at heart. In fact, the system doesn't really have a heart at all, as it seems to be very blatant today with its depopulation agenda, Agenda 21, which is a depopulation agenda. In case you don't realize this, you really might want to do some research into it. It isn't a theory, because you can look at people like the people who are involved are actually more shockingly open about it today than, I mean, it actually beggars belief. You know, they're actually telling you that you basically you are a useless eater and you need to top yourself to save the planet. In saying so many, that's the short version. I want to see true freedom and less gullibility on this planet. I'd love to see people popping their head outside of the box, outside of their little indoctrinations, an ever so closed schooling system, which is forced upon us. Well, I had the living daylights beaten out of me literally at the age of 6.5, 7. I mean, the walloping I got, I won't go into that. I mean, you know, it wasn't just me, is it? It's just how to illustrate. You know, all I did was stare out the window. I was a bit of a daydreamer. I didn't have very good health as a child either, so I had a lot of challenges. And then they force you to go to this school. You stare out the window a bit and you have the living daylights beaten at you. You know, charming, eh? The obligatory mandatory brainwash. I mean it, that it's a brainwash and an indoctrination, because there is so much that isn't included in this indoctrination. How the system really works. This is not taught in your schooling system, because what you are taught in the schooling systems is what you need to be an efficient slave to the system. You might not like to hear this. You might want to cling on to your system as you have your faith in it, or whatever, as you might have a faith in whatever, you know, but faith in flat earth. Now, every time I go on the net now, it comes up in the feed, flat earth this, flat earth that. So that's why I'm calling this Flat Earth, My Foot and the Sausage on the Stick, you see. Because, you know, this is one of the reasons I actually gave up on internet radio, because you think the alternative media is actually giving you the truth. In fact, at the very least, it's infiltrated and controlled. Controlled opposition is a word, a phenomena that is also very real. I was doing my humble attempts at internet radio for some years. I got to figure out quite a few things, you know, how controlled that is. Actually, I was having guests. There was a station, I won't bother to mention their name, that tried pushing on me certain well-known figures in the alternative media scenario. And I said to the guy, you know, I really want to find my own guests. Thank you very much. You know, we've all heard of that guy and that guy and that guy by now, and they're doing, we all know they're doing the rounds on the alternative media network, or the Truth Network, whatever you want to call it. And that particular station got in a real huff because I didn't want to have the renowned certain so-and-so as a guest on my show. Well, isn't he getting enough air? You know, I'm looking for specific guests myself, you know, to get a bit of variation here. And in fact, I'm talking about topics that nobody else in the alternative media is talking about. And that is the freedom of the Roma people, who to this day are peoples who are, in my opinion, the most misunderstood and one of the most persecuted groups, if not the most persecuted group for the last 700 years, at least in Europe. The largest so-called minority of Europe, in case you didn't know. And no, they didn't come from Romania. It's funny, the finger pointers don't even know anything about the people they're pointing the finger at, as a rule of thumb. At least 90% of the time, in my experience. So I don't care if you like this broadcast or not. I really couldn't give a rat's flipping back end. That's not the point of this broadcast. The point of this broadcast is that I go on the net every day especially at winter time. I'm more out and about doing other stuff in the summertime, but I live in a country called Norway. It's nice to have something to do, contact with the outside world while you're sitting at home when it's cold outside and stuff. So I tend to use more time on the net at this time of year and so on and so forth. And I go on the net and you can't get away from it. So I'm trying to address this issue and, flat Earth. And I was doing a broadcast just a moment ago, and I get a bit heated up. So I'm trying to do another one here where I don't lose my cool. But I think about it, every day I go on the net, comes up in the feed, flat Earth, flat Earth, flat Earth, and the arguments don't hold ground. Now, if you haven't figured out why, I don't even see why I should have to give any examples now. Any more examples. I've already pointed out a couple at the beginning of this broadcast or through the broadcast, which I think, as in the pole star being visible from the southern hemisphere or not, and scenarios of the scenario of the sun rising in the east, and you will be able to see that rising sun if you are further east than me, before me. These are two very simple ways of illustrating that the Earth definitely isn't flat, and how you can see also the sunset, blah blah blah. As for curvature in the Earth, then I've got that example of me being at sea with my grandfather many years ago, using the binoculars, looking at the oil rigs which are on the coast of Norway, and to see the base of those oil rigs, you would have to get closer to them. I'm looking through the binoculars, and you would not be able to see the bottom parts of the legs of the oil rig because of the curvature of the Earth and the sea included. So unless you've been at sea and made these observations yourself, I don't know, it might sound ludicrous to you. You might actually believe the Earth is flat because you think the Earth is flat because there are a bunch of shills on the internet going around doing this flat Earth thing and presenting a model which no way works in reality. It is so easy to see this if you just like stretch your noodle a wee bit, just use your frickin' noodle. And shills and swine like Santos Bernacchi, this sorrowful excuse for a human being. I say that directly. I hope he sees this broadcast. I think you're a miserable excuse for a human being, Santos Bernacchi. And you're a sellout to the flat Earth. I think you're a sad, sad case. So I'll say that straight out. And really, do I have anything else to say on the matter? What more is there to say? I mean, not many people have been tuning in. I mean, so what? I'm just putting this out there as a preliminary. I'm having a bit of a hard time at the moment anyway, getting this thing to work. So I was just happy I got it to work at all. This Google Plus thing. I thought I was blocked actually, but I actually managed to get it to work again. And you want to believe the flat Earth, but what difference does it make when it comes to our freedoms, you see, and what really is happening on this Earth? So even if it is flat, round, or a sausage on a ruddy stick, what difference does it make? Although it does actually make it does actually make some difference, because it is interesting to have a picture in your mind, for my purposes anyway, a picture in your mind of how things work. I mean, if you actually look and observe for yourself and see the way things rotate and behave, and the sun rising and sinking, rising in the east, a person further in the east will be able to see the sun rising before me if I'm further in the west. It's that simple, because the Earth is not flat. And you can see half of the sun popping up there. Hello, peekaboo. The flat Earth model doesn't work. You can't see the pole star from Australia, as far as I know. I might be wrong. Why don't you check and find out for yourself? So that's all from me, Mysterious Labyrinth. Sausages to the flat earth. I think you're all totally off your rockers, and you should really be addressing the real issues on this planet. And this psyop to discredit anyone trying to talk honestly about, you know, as we're seeing the last threads of freedom disappearing. If you can't see that by now, and you're focused on this flat earth thing, please snap out of it, please. Might be interesting for a while, but now for me it's really getting boring. Every day, flat earth, straight in your face, coming up on the screen, left, right, and center. Right? Your consciousness seems to be very flat. To be able to even adopt this as a working model, which doesn't work at all in reality. Doesn't work. Doesn't work for me. If you think it works for you, well, good luck to you. You're gonna need it. You're gonna need a lot of luck if that's the reality you're living in. In my opinion, you're completely brainwashed. You're possibly even hypnotized in one way or another. Or you're a fan of people like this swine, this Santos Bonacci swine, low-life shill, and other flat earthers. Don't have to mention them, because they're all over the place. You see them coming out of the woodwork, doing their flat earth song and dance to keep you distracted and to discredit anything that can even remotely resemble a genuine truth movement. What more can I say? I think it's very disappointing. Humanity generally disappoints me, how gullible and easy you are to distract and lead. It's very, very disappointing. I could see this already when I was younger, how easy it is to lead the masses down the garden path into the carousel of control, the merry-go-round. Very, very, very sad to see this planet, the oppression, the persecution, the killing, all because you all bow down to the system and follow orders. Low life, order followers, grovelers to another man's set of rules, following their orders because you aren't capable of thinking for yourself, which makes this world a disgusting place to live in. A disgusting place of persecution, suffering, death, murder, torture, forced sterilizations, mass brainwashing, mass-controlled media, hijacking, and all of these disgusting major religions that hijack the consciousness of the masses, leading you also down the garden path, as the fairy tale hijacks your consciousness. And the fairy tale plays itself out in reality as you adopt the stories written for you. The play, the pantomime, the fairy tale, which invades the consciousness, if allowed, and affects the way you live out your life. Whereas we are being, throughout history, set up against each other. Set up time and time again, one religion against another, and all these different techniques. They used to set people up against each other and basically kill each other. In this very, very sad scenario of a planet Earth, whatever shape it is, but in my mind, it definitely ain't flat, mate. Now, I've given my reasons for that. I can get a whole load more reasons for why I think it isn't flat. And there you go. How How about freedom? Freedom, true freedom. How about less persecution, less suffering, less slavery to the system? Why do you bow down to another man's rules? Why do you do that? You see, because you expect us to do it too, you see. Because the enslaved mind also seems to expect others to follow the same slavery route to slavery, route of slavery. The enslavement of the mind. If you control somebody's mind, you also control their body, their actions. If you believe you live on a flat earth, you may behave in a very flat manner. You may behave as if you believe that we are on a flat pancake earth, flapping about, or maybe not flapping about. You actually believe the universe revolves around you. We can think about the geocentric and heliocentric models. It's all a matter of perspective, isn't it? But the perspective of the flat earth is not a working model that works in reality. So please do your homework. Well, not your homework, but I mean, it sounds so stupid to say it like that, but please question this, and we might have some hope for true freedom. You know, what can I say? I'll just say that's all from me for now. This is all from Mysterious Labyrinth, and thank you very much, and sausages to your load of cobblers of a flat earth. You low-life people, weak-minded, pitiful excuses for human beings. Pitiful, pitiful. I don't even feel sorry for you, because what's coming, if you're not ready now, you never will be. If you can't see what's happening now, and you're focused on this flat earth thing, I don't pity you. I think it's pathetic. I think it's really, really, really pathetic that we have to contend with some noddy and big ears story. Noddy and big ears, sipping tea on the moon with the clangers. You will flipping believe it too, won't you? You'll believe anything that they shove at you. Believe anything you like. The enslavement of humankind is the result. The enslavement of your mind and your body follows the orders of the hierarchy, as you are a willing slave on your flat earth, while everything goes to while everything crumbles, basically is crumbling around us. You can cling on to your flat earth if you like. I'm finished with it, and this is probably going to be the end of my broadcast for today. Cling on to your little flat earth, you pitiful, pitiful people. Goodbye.